Part 1. The Impossible Corpse. Hello. My name is Detective Laura Hayes, and I've been investigating homicides for the Chicago Police Department for 14 years. I've seen every kind of murder imaginable, crimes of passion, calculated hits, random violence. I thought I'd seen everything, but nothing prepared me for the case that started on October 23rd, when we found a man brutally murdered in his apartment, only to have that same man walk into our precinct 6 hours later, very much alive. The call came at 2:17 a.m. A neighbor in a downtown apartment building reported screams and the sound of a struggle from Unit 4B. When patrol officers arrived and forced entry, they found a scene of horrific violence. The victim lay in the living room, multiple stab wounds to the chest and abdomen. Blood pooled around the body. The apartment showed clear signs of struggle, overturned furniture, broken glass, defensive wounds on the victim's hands. I arrived at the scene at 3:05 a.m. The medical examiner, Dr. Richard Park, was already there, making his preliminary assessment. Single male victim, approximately 35 years old, he reported. Multiple stab wounds, at least 12 that I can count. Death would have been relatively quick. All of the wounds penetrated the heart. Time of death approximately 1:30 to 2 a.m. based on body temperature and lividity. I examined the scene carefully. The violence was personal, not the work of a professional. This was rage, passion. Someone who knew the victim and wanted him to suffer. The apartment belonged to Michael Torres, a software engineer who worked for a tech startup downtown. His wallet, phone, and laptop were all present. This wasn't a robbery gone wrong. Do we have ID confirmation on the victim? I asked. Driver's license in his wallet matches the apartment tenant Michael Torres, age 34. We'll need dental records or family member identification to confirm, but all signs point to this being the resident. I took photographs, documented evidence, supervised the collection of blood samples and forensic materials. Everything was by the book, a standard homicide investigation. The body was transported to the morgue for autopsy. We notified Michael Torres' emergency contact, his sister, Rebecca Torres, and asked her to come in for identification. At 8:42 a.m., as I was reviewing crime scene photos and preparing to interview neighbors, my partner Detective James Chen burst into my office with a strange expression on his face. Laura, we have a problem. A major problem. What kind of problem? Michael Torres is in the lobby, alive, asking why police broke into his apartment. I stared at him. That's impossible. Michael Torres is dead. His body is in the morgue. I know what we saw, but there's a man downstairs with Michael Torres' driver's license, his credit cards, his phone, his face, and he's very much not dead. I rushed downstairs to the lobby. A man sat in the waiting area, mid-30s, brown hair, glasses, wearing casual business attire. He looked tired and confused, but very definitely alive. Mr. Torres. I approached him carefully. Yes, Detective Hayes. He stood, extending his hand. Your officers left a message saying there was an incident at my apartment. What's going on? I studied his face. It matched the driver's license photo perfectly. It matched the face of the corpse I'd seen just hours ago. Mr. Torres, where were you last night? I was in Milwaukee for a business meeting. I drove back this morning and stopped at my office first to catch up on emails. When I got your message, I came straight here. Why? What happened at my apartment? When did you leave for Milwaukee? Yesterday afternoon, around 3 p.m. I had dinner with clients, stayed at a hotel, drove back this morning. Is my apartment okay? Was there a break-in? This couldn't be happening. The body in the morgue was Michael Torres. I'd seen it myself. Dr. Park had confirmed it. But this man standing in front of me was also Michael Torres, with identification and an alibi that we could verify. Mr. Torres, I need you to come with me. This is going to sound strange, but we need to take your fingerprints and a DNA sample. Why? What's this about? Please, just cooperate. We'll explain everything shortly. Within an hour, we had confirmation. The fingerprints of the living Michael Torres matched the fingerprints of the corpse. DNA samples, rushed through preliminary testing, showed they were genetically identical. The man in our lobby and the body in our morgue were the same person, at least biologically. This is impossible, Dr. Park said, reviewing the results. I've performed the autopsy. The victim has been dead for at least 6 hours. Rigor mortis is setting in. Lividity is fixed. There's no brain activity. He's completely dead. But according to these tests, he's also standing in your lobby very much alive. I brought Michael Torres into an interview room. Mr. Torres, I need you to listen carefully. Last night, someone broke into your apartment and killed a man. That man's body is currently in our morgue. And according to every forensic test we've run, that body is you. Same fingerprints, same DNA, same physical characteristics. Can you explain that? His face went pale. That's insane. I'm obviously not dead. I'm sitting right here. I know. Which is why this case makes no sense. Do you have a twin? A sibling you haven't mentioned? No. I'm an only child. My sister Rebecca, you called her, right? She can confirm. Do you know anyone who might want to hurt you? Anyone with a grudge? A reason to stage something like this? Stage what? You're telling me there's a dead body in the morgue that's somehow me. But I'm also alive. How is that even possible? That's what I'm trying to determine. Can you account for every moment of your time since yesterday afternoon? He pulled out his phone, showing me his calendar and location history. Hotel check-in in Milwaukee at 7:15 p.m. Dinner reservation at a restaurant at 8:30 p.m. Credit card transactions throughout the evening. Hotel security footage would confirm his presence there. Someone killed you last night, Mr. Torres. Or someone who is biologically identical to you. But you were in Milwaukee with a solid alibi. So either someone cloned you, or something impossible is happening. He looked terrified. Cloned? That's science fiction. So is a dead body with your DNA, walking into a police station. Yet here we are. I had my team pull security footage from Michael Torres' apartment building. The cameras showed him leaving at 3:17 p.m. yesterday, carrying an overnight bag matching his story about going to Milwaukee. But then, at 11:43 p.m., the cameras showed him returning home, letting himself in with his key. Except Michael Torres claimed he was in Milwaukee at that time, and hotel security footage confirmed it. He was in his hotel room in Milwaukee from 10 p.m. until 7 a.m. this morning. He was into places at once, Detective Chen said, reviewing the footage. That's the only explanation. Unless one of these is a recording or deepfake. Our tech team is analyzing the footage. But if it's fake, it's the best fake I've ever seen. The person entering the apartment moves naturally, responds to environmental cues, even nods to a neighbor passing in the hallway. We contacted the Milwaukee hotel, obtained their security footage. It showed Michael Torres checking in, going to his room, ordering room service. Everything confirmed his alibi, but our apartment building footage showed him being murdered at approximately 1:45 a.m. I decided to try something different. I brought Michael Torres to the morgue to see the body that was supposedly him. Dr. Park warned me this could be traumatic, but I needed to see his reaction. When we pulled back the sheet covering the corpse, Michael Torres staggered backwards, his face going white. That's me. Oh God, that's my face. But I'm right here. How can I be dead and alive at the same time? Look closely, I instructed. Are there any differences? Any way to distinguish yourself from this body? He forced himself to look carefully at the corpse. The scar on his left eyebrow, I have the same scar from a childhood accident. The birthmark on his neck, I have that too. Even the tattoo on his shoulder, the one I got in college. Everything is identical. This is me, but it can't be me because I'm standing here looking at it. I checked our records. 3 months ago, there had been a similar case. A woman named Sarah Kim had been found murdered in her home, multiple stab wounds, clear signs of struggle. But 4 hours later, Sarah Kim had appeared at work, confused about why police were trying to contact her. DNA tests confirmed both the corpse and the living woman were Sarah Kim. The case had been closed as unexplained, written off as a forensic error, despite all evidence suggesting otherwise. The living Sarah Kim had been sent home with recommendations for psychiatric evaluation, and the body had been quietly cremated after no family members came forward to claim it. 2 months before that, a man named David Chen had been found shot to death in an alley. But David Chen had walked into a police station the next morning reporting his car stolen, with no memory of being shot and very much alive. Same DNA, same fingerprints. The case had also been classified as unexplained and buried. There's a pattern, I told Captain Martinez. 4 cases in 6 months, all in Chicago. People who are murdered but show up alive shortly after, with ironclad alibis for the time of death. And in every case, the forensics confirm both the corpse and the living person are genuine. What are you suggesting? Some kind of cloning operation? Government experiments? I don't know what I'm suggesting, but we need to treat this as a serial case, not isolated incidents. Someone or something is killing people in a way that doesn't actually kill them, or killing copies, or... I struggled to find words for what was happening. We're missing something fundamental about how this is possible. I decided to investigate Sarah Kim and David Chen, the previous victims who'd shown up alive. Sarah Kim worked as a graphic designer and lived alone. When I visited her apartment, she seemed nervous but willing to talk. I remember that night, she said. I remember coming home from work, making dinner, watching TV. I went to bed around 11. The next morning, I woke up and went to work as usual. When police contacted me saying I'd been murdered, I thought they were insane. But then they showed me photos of the body, and it was definitely me. Same scar from my appendectomy, same dental work, everything. I have nightmares about it, seeing my own corpse, knowing I should be dead, but I'm not. Do you remember anything unusual before the supposed murder? Any strange people, unusual experiences, gaps in your memory? She hesitated. There was something. About a week before it happened, I had these weird dreams. Or I thought they were dreams. I'd wake up in the middle of the night feeling like I had been somewhere else, done something I couldn't quite remember, and I'd find dirt under my fingernails, or my shoes would be muddy. Even though I swore I'd been asleep in bed all night. Did you tell anyone about this? My therapist. She said it was probably sleepwalking triggered by stress. I've been under a lot of pressure at work. But after the murder, the sleepwalking stopped. It's like whatever was happening before resolved itself with that event. David Chen, the man who'd been shot, had a similar story. Strange dreams in the week before his death. Feelings of lost time. Waking up exhausted, as if he'd been active all night. It's like something was practicing, I said to Detective Chen as we reviewed our notes. Like someone or something was testing these people, preparing them, and then executing the murders as some kind of final stage. But why? What's the purpose? If you're going to kill someone, why let them stay alive? And how do you create a perfect duplicate body to murder instead? That was the question that kept me awake at night. Over the next week, I dug deeper into the backgrounds of all 4 victims. They seemed to have nothing in common: different ages, different professions, different social circles. But then I found it. All 4 had participated in a sleep study at Northwestern University, about 2 months before their deaths. The study was run by Dr. Elizabeth Monroe, a name that sent chills down my spine the moment I saw it. I'd heard that name before in connection with classified research, consciousness studies, experimental psychology that pushed ethical boundaries. I obtained a warrant to review the sleep study records. What I found was disturbing. The study wasn't about sleep at all, it was about consciousness mapping, using advanced scanning technology to create detailed neural maps of participants' brains. While they slept, they were copying people, Dr. Park realized when I showed him the research data, creating neural templates, complete maps of consciousness and identity. If you had a template detailed enough, and the right technology, you could theoretically recreate a person's entire mental state, in another body, or in a biological construct. Cloning is real, Laura. We can grow organs, grow tissue. If someone had the technology and the will, they could grow a complete human body and implant it with a copied consciousness pattern. It would be that person, biologically and psychologically, right down to the genetic level. But why murder the copies? Why create them just to kill them? Maybe that's not the point. Maybe the murder is a side effect. What if someone is using these people's neural templates for something else? And the bodies we're finding are just discarded experiments, failed attempts at whatever they're really trying to do. I decided it was time to confront Dr. Monroe directly. But when I went to Northwestern University to find her, I was told she'd left the institution 6 months ago. Her research had been classified, her laboratory sealed, and all her records transferred to an undisclosed government facility. Dr. Monroe's work was deemed sensitive to national security, a university official told me. I can't tell you more than that. If you want information about her research, you'll need to contact federal authorities. I contacted the FBI, Homeland Security, anyone who might know about classified consciousness research. I was stonewalled at every turn. Dr. Monroe's work was beyond my clearance level, beyond my jurisdiction. I was told to drop the investigation and focus on conventional cases, but I couldn't drop it, because 2 days after my attempt to find Dr. Monroe, I woke up with dirt under my fingernails, with a feeling of lost time, with the terrible certainty that I'd been somewhere and done something I couldn't remember, and in my pocket, I found a note in my own handwriting. You've been murdered before. Check your medical records from 7 months ago. You're not who you think you are. Part 2. The erased past. I stared at the note for a full minute, my hand trembling. My own handwriting. Without question I recognized the way I formed my letters, the slight slant of my script. But I had no memory of writing it. 7 months ago. I tried to remember what had happened 7 months ago. I'd been working cases, normal routine, nothing unusual. But as I focused on trying to recall specific details from that time period, I realized something disturbing. My memories from 7 months ago were fuzzy, vague, lacking the detail and clarity they should have. I pulled my medical records from the department's health insurance database. 7 months ago, I'd taken a week of sick leave. The reason listed was severe migraine and disorientation. I had no memory of being sick, no memory of taking that week off. I called the department's HR office. Can you pull records of my sick leave from 7 months ago? I need details about what was documented. The HR rep found the file. Says here you called in sick on a Monday morning, reported severe headaches and memory issues. You were advised to see a doctor. There's a note that you returned to work the following Monday. Cleared by Dr. Sarah Chen at Northwestern Medical. Is there a problem? Who approved my sick leave? Who did I call? Your direct supervisor at the time, Captain Richard Blake. But he's been transferred to another precinct since then. I contacted Blake. When I asked him about my sick leave 7 months ago, there was a long pause. Laura, I don't remember approving any sick leave for you. Are you sure that was me? According to our records. Yes. That's strange. I keep detailed logs of all personnel matters. Let me check. Another pause. I have no record of you taking sick leave during that period. In fact, my logs show you work straight through without absence. 2 sets of records, contradicting each other. The official our database said I had taken a week off. My supervisor's personal log said I hadn't. One of them had to be wrong, or someone had falsified records. I went to Northwestern Medical, asking to see Dr. Sarah Chen, who'd supposedly cleared me to return to work. We don't have a Dr. Sarah Chen on staff, the receptionist told me. Are you sure you have the right hospital? Check your records from 7 months ago. She signed medical clearance for me. They searched their database. We have a signed clearance form with that name. But when we cross-reference it against our physician database, there's no match. This signature doesn't belong to any doctor who's worked here. It's fraudulent. Someone had faked my medical records, inserted false information about sick leave, forged a doctor's clearance, and I had no memory of that week at all. I checked my personal records, credit card statements, phone logs, location data. For that week 7 months ago, I had almost no activity. Number credit card transactions, no phone calls. Location data showing I had barely left my apartment, as if I had simply ceased to exist for 7 days. My apartment security system had logs. I pulled them up, checking footage from 7 months ago. The cameras showed me entering my apartment on Sunday night. Then nothing for 5 days. No exits, no entries, as if I had simply vanished inside my own home. On Friday afternoon, the cameras showed me leaving, looking disoriented and exhausted. Where had I been for those 5 days? The cameras said I never left my apartment, but I had no memory of being there. I called Detective Chen. James, I need you to do something for me without asking questions. Pull my DNA profile from the department database. Then I need you to take a new sample from me and compare them. Why? What's going on? Please, just do it. I'll explain when we have results. 2 hours later, he came to my office looking shaken. Laura, the samples don't match. I mean, they're close like you're related to yourself. Like the old DNA is from a sibling or close relative. But they're not identical. What the hell is happening? I felt my world tilting. 7 months ago, I was replaced. The me that exists now isn't the same me that existed before. I'm a duplicate, a copy, created from neural mapping and biological cloning. And the original Laura Hayes is probably dead, murdered like all the other victims we've found. That's insane, is it? We've found 4 corpses that are perfect duplicates of living people. We know Dr. Monroe was running consciousness copying experiments. We know someone has the technology to create biological clones and implant them with copied neural patterns. Why couldn't that someone be using that technology on me? But why? Why replace a police detective? I thought about that. What had I been investigating 7 months ago? I pulled my case files, looking at what I'd been working on before my mysterious sick leave. 7 months ago, I'd been investigating a series of unexplained deaths at a research facility connected to neural science. People who died under mysterious circumstances, bodies that showed no clear cause of death. I'd been getting close to something, had scheduled interviews with key witnesses. Then I'd taken that week of sick leave. When I returned, the case had been closed, classified as natural deaths. No further investigation required. I'd accepted that conclusion without question, moved on to other cases. But the original Laura Hayes wouldn't have accepted that. She would have kept pushing, kept investigating, unless she'd been stopped. Permanently. They murdered me to stop my investigation, I realized. Then they replaced me with a duplicate who wouldn't ask uncomfortable questions. I'm not a detective, I am a puppet, created to look and act like Laura Hayes while staying away from whatever they're trying to hide. If that's true, why are you questioning it now? Why did you leave yourself a note to check your medical records? That was a good question. Why had I suddenly started noticing inconsistencies, questioning my own identity? Maybe the programming isn't perfect. Maybe over time, the copied consciousness starts to deviate from the original, starts to notice discrepancies. Or maybe the original Laura's consciousness is fighting back somehow, leaving clues for me to find. I decided I needed to talk to the other victims, Michael Torres, Sarah Kim, David Chen. If they'd also been replaced with duplicates, they might be experiencing similar realizations. When I visited Michael Torres at his apartment, he looked haggard, as if he hadn't slept in days. I've been having dreams, he told me immediately. Dreams where I'm someone else, living a slightly different life. And when I wake up, I can't shake the feeling that those dreams are actually memories. Real memories that don't belong to me. Or memories that do belong to you, but from before you were replaced. His hands shook as he poured coffee. I've been thinking the same thing. About what you said about the body in the morgue being me but also not being me. What if I'm not the original Michael Torres? What if I'm a copy, and the body you found was the real me being discarded? Do you remember anything about a sleep study at Northwestern? Yes. About 2 months before my murder, or whatever we're calling it, I participated in a sleep research study. They said they were mapping neural activity during dreams. They scanned my brain extensively, asked detailed questions about my memories and identity. At the time, I thought it was just scientific research. They were copying you, creating a neural template they could use to grow a duplicate body and implant with your consciousness pattern. And then, for reasons we don't understand yet, they murdered the original and let you, the copy, continue living. But why? What's the purpose? I don't know yet, but I think it has to do with what we know, what we've seen, what we're capable of discovering. You're a software engineer who works on encrypted systems. Sarah Kim is a graphic designer who works with facial recognition technology. David Chen is a data analyst for a financial firm. And I'm a homicide detective. We all have skills or knowledge that might be valuable to someone, or dangerous to someone. I visited Sarah Kim next. She was at work, sitting at her desk staring at a blank computer screen. When I approached, she looked up with hollow eyes. I've been trying to remember my childhood, she said quietly. Basic things like my first day of school, family vacations, birthday parties. But when I really focus on the memories, they feel fake. Like I'm remembering a story someone told me rather than something I actually experienced. Am I even real, Detective Hayes? Or am I just a biological puppet with implanted memories? You're real. Your consciousness is real. Your awareness is real. But you might not be the original Sarah Kim. The original might have been murdered, and you might be a duplicate created from neural mapping. I've been doing research, she said, pulling up files on her computer. After you visited last time, I started looking into consciousness duplication, cloning technology, neural mapping. It's all theoretically possible. The technology exists, even if it's not publicly acknowledged. And I found something else. She showed me a list of names. These are all people who died under mysterious circumstances in the past year, all connected somehow to Dr. Elizabeth Monroe's research. Some were participants in her studies, others were scientists who worked with her, others were investigators looking into her work. They're all officially dead, but I've found evidence some of them might still be alive. Social media posts after their death dates, financial transactions, sightings. They're duplicates, like us, or we're duplicates like them. Detective, what if this is bigger than just a few replaced people? What if Dr. Monroe or whoever is behind this has replaced dozens or hundreds of people? What if there's a whole network of duplicates walking around, thinking they're the originals, while the real people are dead? The implications were staggering. If consciousness duplication technology existed and was being used systematically, you couldn't trust anyone's identity. The person you talk to today might be replaced by a duplicate tomorrow, and you'd never know. I needed to find Dr. Monroe. If anyone could explain what was happening and why, it would be her. But she'd vanished into classified government projects, beyond my reach through normal channels. Unless I used irregular channels, I contacted a hacker I'd worked with on a previous case, someone who owed me favors, and asked no questions. I need you to find someone for me. Dr. Elizabeth Monroe. Last known location somewhere in classified government research, probably military or intelligence connected. That's above my pay grade, detective. Can you do it or not? He sighed. Give me 48 hours. If she's findable, I'll find her. While I waited, I gathered the other duplicates: Michael Torres, Sarah Kim, David Chen, along with Detective Chen, who I'd briefed on everything. We need to work together, I told them. We're all victims of the same technology, the same operation. If we pool our knowledge and skills, maybe we can figure out what's being done to us and why. David Chen, the data analyst, started mapping connections between all the victims. There's a pattern, He discovered after hours of analysis. Everyone who's been duplicated has some connection to sensitive information or critical infrastructure. Michael Torres works on encrypted communication systems. Sarah Kim does facial recognition work for law enforcement databases. I analyze financial data for international transactions. Detective Hayes investigates crimes that might expose classified operations. We're all people who either have access to important information or might stumble across things people want kept secret. So we're being replaced because we're potential threats, Michael said. But if they wanted us dead, why create duplicates? Why not just kill us and be done with it? Because the duplicates serve a purpose, I realized. We continue in our jobs, maintain our social connections, appear completely normal. But we're programmed at some level to avoid certain investigations, to not ask certain questions, to be blind to whatever operation we're really part of. We're intelligence assets disguised as our original selves. Sarah Kim looked horrified. You're saying we're sleeper agents? That we might be gathering information or performing tasks without even knowing it? Maybe. Or maybe we're just kept alive because killing us would attract too much attention. But duplicating us allows us to be controlled and monitored. Either way, we're not free. We're tools being used by whoever controls this technology. My hacker contact came through. Found your doctor. She's at a facility in Nevada. Part of a military installation that officially doesn't exist. Heavily classified, maximum security. If you're planning to go there, I'd strongly advise against it. Send me the coordinates. Detective, this is way beyond police jurisdiction. This is military intelligence, possibly CIA or something even more shadowy. If you push this, you'll disappear. For real this time. Not just consciousness duplication, but actual permanent disappearance. I'm already disappeared. I'm a fake person wearing a murdered woman's identity. What more can they do to me? I assembled my team, Detective Chen, the 3 other duplicates, and enough evidence to prove what was being done to us. We were going to Nevada to confront Dr. Monroe and demand answers. But the night before we were supposed to leave, I got a call from a blocked number. Detective Hayes, this is Dr. Elizabeth Monroe. I understand you're planning to visit me. That would be inadvisable. Instead, I'm coming to you. We need to talk about what you really are, what was done to you, and why you can't remember being murdered. Where are you? I'll be at your apartment in 1 hour. Come alone. If you bring anyone else, this conversation doesn't happen, and you'll never know the truth about who you really are. I knew it could be a trap, but I'd come too far to back down now. I was going to get answers, even if those answers destroyed what little remained of my identity. Part 3. The Truth About Consciousness. Dr. Elizabeth Monroe sat in my living room, looking nothing like I had expected. She was younger, mid-30s, with a tired expression and hands that wouldn't stop shaking. Not the cold scientist I'd imagined, but someone who looked haunted by what she'd created. Thank you for seeing me alone, she said quietly. What I'm about to tell you will sound impossible, but I need you to listen to everything before you react. I'm listening. You're right about being a duplicate. 7 months ago, you were investigating deaths connected to my research. You were getting too close to classified operations, asking questions that couldn't be answered publicly. You were murdered, killed by people who wanted to protect their secrets. But I wasn't involved in that murder, Detective Hayes. I was trying to stop it, by creating a duplicate to take my place, by saving your consciousness. Before you were killed, I extracted your neural pattern not through a sleep study like the others, but through an emergency procedure after the attack. You were dying, minutes away from brain death. I had 2 choices. Let you die completely, or preserve your consciousness in the only way I knew how. I chose to save you, by killing the original me. The original you was already dead. By the time I arrived, you had no brain activity, no consciousness. What I saved was the neural pattern, the pattern of awareness that defined who you are. And I implanted it into a cloned body, this body you're living in now. I felt sick, So I'm not the original Laura Hayes. I'm a copy of a dead woman. You're not a copy, Monroe insisted. You're a continuation. The same consciousness, the same awareness, the same identity, just in a different biological substrate. Think of it like a computer. If your hard drive fails, but you've backed up all your data and restored it to a new hard drive, is that data any less real, any less valid? Except I'm not data. I'm supposed to be a person. You are a person. Consciousness isn't the meat it runs on, detective. It's the pattern, the information, the awareness itself. That's what makes you you, not the specific atoms your body is made from. Those atoms are constantly being replaced anyway through normal biological processes. Every 7 years, you're essentially a completely different physical body. But you're still you, because consciousness is continuous. What about the body you found in my apartment 7 months ago? The murdered original. That body was disposed of by the people who killed you. I never saw it, but based on what you've told me about finding duplicate corpses for the other victims, I can make an educated guess about what happened. They're not leaving behind your original bodies. They're leaving behind flawed copies. Flawed. My consciousness extraction and duplication process isn't perfect. When I save someone's neural pattern and implant it into a new body, sometimes the process creates echoes, partial copies that don't fully integrate with the new body, failed versions that retain some consciousness but lack stability. These failed copies usually die within hours or days, and I think the people who killed you have figured out how to weaponize those failed copies. You're saying the corpses we've been finding, they're not the originals. They're failed duplicates that were created during the consciousness transfer process, and then murdered to create confusion. Exactly. When I saved you, there would have been several failed versions of your consciousness pattern that didn't properly integrate. Those versions would be biologically identical to you, but mentally unstable, incomplete. If someone gathered those failed copies and staged them as murder victims, it would create exactly the kind of confusion you've been experiencing. You'd find bodies that are genetically you, but you'd be alive with no memory of dying. It's the perfect crime. Murder someone, save their consciousness to continue their work without interruption, and create false corpses to confuse investigators. Why would anyone do this? Why murder people but then save their consciousness? Monroe stood, pacing my apartment nervously. Because consciousness extraction technology has applications far beyond saving lives. Think about it, detective. If you can copy someone's consciousness, you can interrogate that copy without physically harming the original. You can run simulations, test scenarios, extract information. Intelligence agencies are desperate for this technology, and that's what you were developing. Consciousness interrogation. I was developing consciousness preservation as a medical technology. I wanted to help people with terminal illnesses, brain injuries, degenerative diseases. But once the military and intelligence communities learned about my work, they saw different applications. They funded my research but directed it toward their goals. And when scientists or test subjects tried to expose what was being done, they were eliminated, killed, but with their consciousness preserved in duplicate bodies that could be controlled or monitored. You're saying I'm an intelligence asset, that I was murdered and duplicated so I'd stop investigating classified operations. No, you're different. I saved you before I fully understood what the military was doing with my technology. I saved you because you were dying, and I had the means to prevent your death. But in doing so, I made you a target, because now you're living proof that consciousness duplication works. And there are people who want to study you, control you, or eliminate you to keep the technology secret. What about Michael Torres, Sarah Kim, David Chen? Were they saved like me, or were they murdered and replaced? Monroe's expression darkened. I don't know. After I saved you, I was shut out of my own research. The military took over my laboratory, classified all my work, and deployed the technology without ethical oversight. I've been trying to track cases where people are being duplicated without consent, but I have limited information. Some might be willing participants, agreeing to consciousness backup in case of death. Others might be unwilling victims, murdered and replaced with duplicates that serve someone else's agenda. How do I know you're telling me the truth? How do I know this isn't another layer of manipulation? She pulled out a small device from her bag. This is a consciousness scanner. It can detect whether someone's neural pattern